Hello everyone, call for Zero. I have a weird one for you today. The Philadelphia Experiment, 1943, was conducted by the U.S. Navy. A destroyer ship was made invisible and transported from Philadelphia to Norfolk, Virginia. The ship involved was the USS Eldridge. It was outfitted with electronic generators, antennas, and tech by a group including Nikola Tesla.
We're involved in the consideration of how do you make an object invisible. And this was what we would today call a feasibility study, and this took place at the University of Chicago for about 3 years. And at that time, it was moved to the then rather brand new Institute of Advanced Study at Princeton, New Jersey.
The desired result was to develop a cloak, a radar cloak, that could be used by the merchant marines in transporting goods across the ocean to Europe.
For sequence, checking the meters, knowing what the basic physics involved was, but also in case something went wrong, we had to diagnose what might have gone wrong and, if necessary, shut the equipment off.
According to Al Bielek, things didn't go as planned. Al Bielek was on the Eldridge during the experiment. He and a partner on the ship noticed that when systems were activated, a haze developed around the ship where they could no longer see objects in the area.
Well, at that point, needless to say, Duncan and I were very concerned. What's going on here? We had that funny gut feeling that something was terribly wrong, but we didn't know what.
They noticed the deck was morphing.
So we decided, let's get out of here. Opened the bulkhead door, ran out on deck,
and decided to leap over the railing into the ocean and swim to land.
They found 2 men buried in the steel deck. 2 men were buried upright in the steel bulkhead. A 5th man had his hand buried in the steel bulkhead.
Al Bielek describes his situation as looking over the railing and seeing nothing, no water. Him and his partner were just going to go for it.
So we did jump overboard. Now I must state that at that point we could see nothing beyond the railing of the ship. It was just a gray fog, if you will.
So they leapt over the railing and expected to hit water, but according to Al Bielek, they dropped, and they continued to drop through what he described as a tunnel.
We jumped overboard. We never hit the water. Decided we didn't know what was happening, but we started to fall and fall and fall through what appeared to be, or felt like, a tunnel of some kind.
When he landed, evidently it was a materialization. It wasn't a physical landing. They found themselves in a nearby military base within the grounds next to the fence line. The MPs were alerted and they responded with helicopters, which Al Bielek was unfamiliar because back in 1943, helicopters were not common. So he was taken to an underground location on the base and interrogated, and was told that he had transported in time. And he also said that the scientist that spoke to him before the experiment, a young man in Philadelphia, was standing in front of him.
They grabbed us immediately, took us to a building. In the building we went, got on an elevator. It took us down several levels. Elevator doors opened. We saw a lot of military personnel running around, and an elderly civilian came forward and greeted us and said to us, "I've been expecting you, gentlemen. I am Dr. John von Neumann."
Asking him questions about the event, but the problem is he was much older.
He looked at him and said, "You're who?" And I said, "I'm Dr. Van Neumann." I said, "You can't be. We left him about an hour ago. He's a much younger man."
Al Bielek responded, "You can't be the same scientist. He was a much younger man." I don't know how valid this is, but from what I read, it was connected to the Montauk Project, which was also a time travel experiment wherein they sent children through a portal described as a standing, twinkling barrier, and that they were told to go back in time and make adjustments that would be favorable to the future. I investigated this. I found several videos online, including Al Bielek's own words in an interview, and they are unpostable. I tried cutting them short and renaming the video and calling it a generic test and experiment. I didn't even include Philadelphia at all. It still won't post. This is telling that I'm not allowed to physically post the actual interview that details the names of scientists, the dates, a little bit about the equipment, and several other details, including when the ship eventually stopped morphing and rematerialized, that several sailors were partially stuck in the metal structure of the ship and, of course, had died. I tend to think that this whole thing is fabricated, but what's making me have doubts is how it's being blocked. Somebody doesn't want the public knowing exactly what Al Bielek said in his own words. Have a good week, everyone.